Your host, Bill Teegins.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Eddie Sutton Show. The Cowboys are 7-2 as we speak, with victories this week over Cal Davis and also the University of Tulsa. And, Coach, the schedule eased up a bit after playing 7 games in 16 days.
Well, it was good to be back in Stillwater and on our campus and in our facility, Gallagher-Iba Arena. Even though it was finals week, we still were able to get in a lot of good practice sessions. Sometimes all the players weren't there, but at least we did practice. And I thought it did show up when we played Cal State Davis on Saturday night after finals. We beat them 85-41, and everyone got to play, everyone scored, everyone had a good time, but defensively we looked better. And then on Monday evening, and we'll be looking at some highlights of the game with the University of Tulsa, defensively we did play better, and that's encouraging. Now we've got to get our offense maybe a little finer tuned and not turn the ball over so many times. And most of those mistakes that we're making at the offensive end aren't a result of the other team's defense. So many of them are just carelessness on our part. So we've had some good practice sessions this week after the Tulsa game. And, of course, Christmas Day we depart for Hawaii, and we'll be playing over there in the Rainbow Classic, and we play our first game with the University of Florida. So we still have a few days of practice before we play them, and hopefully our team will look a little bit better than maybe we did in some of these games recently. I haven't been real pleased, even though our record's 7-2. I really believe we're not playing as well as we should be.
Well, 7-2 is the record. Again, you Cowboys will take a victory, and we'll try to work through mistakes, but it's a lot easier to do that when you win. And when we come back, we'll take a look at some of the highlights from Tulsa, including another successful trip to the oil capital, when the Eddie Sutton Show continues. And welcome back to the Eddie Sutton Show. The Cowboys 7-2. We're going to take a look at some highlights in a moment of the University of Tulsa game. You expected a tough game from the Golden Hurricane. That's what you got, Coach.
It's always going to be tough when you play the University of Tulsa because it's such an emotional game for them. They want to win the conference games, of course, but to play Arkansas like they're playing tonight, Thursday evening, or to play us, those are big non-conference games. A full house. We had a lot of supporters there, but the home court advantage was still there. Early in the game, first play, you don't want to start off like that. And we jump out there and make a couple of defensive errors. We don't help, and then Brian gets beat, and they're out 5-0. But there's a good three-pointer by Coach Sutton from deep in the corner. They collapse. We swing the ball out around the perimeter, and there's a good shot by Brooks Thompson. You don't see that play very often. He hit the tray, got fouled. Now he goes to the free throw line, converts the free throw, a 4-point play.
Well, if you could have him shooting free throws all the time, or Randy Rutherford or Fred Burley, he'd be in good shape.
Yeah, that's a big guy right there. He's getting fouled so much, and he's not hitting them as well, although in this game he hit them better in the second half. Good follow shot by Randy Rutherford on a miss by Bryant Reeves.
Well, Randy's really shooting the ball well right now.
He shot the ball extremely well in our loss at LSU, and again the other evening in this ball game, and is playing very, very well. In fact, if you had to give players of the game, I would have given it to Fred Burley, who played very well defensively. There he is right there. There's Fred going in and dunking over one of the Tulsa players. But Rutherford and Burley both played extremely well.
Collier made some nice shots. He's a good ball player for them. Dawkins also played well.
Collier's a very good player and was a leading scorer, but that was one of the things that Fred Burley did well. He really did a nice job defensively. And Collier had 3 putbacks late in the game when probably Fred was a little tired, but good performance by Fred.
Nice play here defensively by Brooks.
Very good defensive play. Ran through the pass, and on that play right there, Rollo, their center, got poked in the eye and had to go out of the game for a while.
Fred Burley, let's talk a little bit more about him defensively. I know he's such a great athlete. If he could perform like that defensively every week or every game, boy, you just love that, wouldn't you?
Well, we certainly would. We've challenged Fred to get better defensively. 2 areas that he needs to improve, and he has improved, is rebounding and his defensive effort. We know he can score. He's a very good shooter, but in this particular game, I thought he played extremely well at the defensive end.
How about Country? Now, we see him work it inside. He got that little left-handed
I like
shot.
that shot. I wish he'd shoot it more. Yeah, too often he wants to turn right there and shoot that turnaround jump shot to the baseline. That's a tough shot.
Well, he's fighting inside. He scored 16 points and did a good job on the boards against Tulsa. There you see the score, a 2-point game. This one was tight really until midway through the second half.
Well, it was close all the first half, and then we got out 5 points just before halftime, and then they hit a basket just before the intermission, and we go in halftime 41-38.
There it is, a 4-point game.
This is late in the first half, but it was a very competitive game. It always will be when you play University of Tulsa. They do a nice job in coaching their team, and as I said, Tulsa being only 65 miles away from our campus, and we have the biggest alumni base in Tulsa. We always have a lot of people there, and it's a big rivalry. It gives the people in that area a chance to brag a little on their team. We've been very fortunate in playing in Tulsa. We've played the University of Tulsa since I came back 2 times, won both of those, and you and I were talking. We've been to Tulsa in the 4-year period, eight games: Cal, SMU, Providence, Arizona State, ORU a couple of times. So we're 8-0 in the oil capital. So we like to go to Tulsa to play.
That's a good home away from home for you. Here's again, it was a very physical game too, the Tulsa game was. Look at this fighting underneath, good play by Brooks. Also the fact that Randy Rutherford, 10 rebounds, he really did a great job for you.
He did an outstanding job. That was a nice play by Keontae. That's what we call driving into the defense, forcing a help situation, kicking it off to a perimeter player, and Randy hit the basket. Now Keontae comes back, makes a good defensive play, and we're back in business at the offensive end. Good entry pass, defense collapses, kick out, Brooks hits a 3.
What do you want from Country? When you get the ball inside him, obviously if there's somebody he can beat, you want him to take it to the hoop. Otherwise, kick it back out?
That's what we want him to do. There was another good defensive play by Keontae and a nice pass off to Randy Rutherford. And we had a chance to break the game wide open right here, and we just didn't really bear down defensively, and they hit some good shots, and there's one of them. We throw the ball into Reeves. We tell him, try to score. If you have a one-on-one situation, try to score. Now, if somebody comes back and doubles up on you, then throw the ball in the direction of where the help has come. In other words, wherever that defensive man, what area of the court he's come from, then look in that direction because probably you're going to have one of your teammates wide open. And I used that term a while ago, in and out. If you go in with the basketball and the defense does converge, then he's told to kick it out to one of the perimeter players, and you're going to get a wide open shot. And one of the strengths of our basketball team offensively is our perimeter shooting. We're shooting 44% from three-point range, 54% as a team from all over the court. That guy right there, he can hit that turnaround jumper. That's one of his favorite shots, Fred Burley. As you mentioned, he had in this ball game, Letter Ball Club, I guess, with 20 points. Randy had 19, and Brooks didn't shoot it as much. He had 11. He's the second leading scorer on our ball club for the season.
It's a 5-point game here with about 2:20 left in the game, and again, Brooks has really done a good job for you as he penetrates and gets the ball out.
Well, he's outstanding basketball player. He's made. We talk about Bryant Reeves making remarkable progress in a year's time. Well, so is Brooks Thompson. We're asking him to play the point guard position. He's done very well in doing that. His makeup is more an off guard, but he's just a good basketball player. They talk about the guard combinations. Well, in this part of the country, and I think nationally, you're looking at Randy Rutherford and Brooks Thompson as being one of the best.
71-59, his time is going out in the convention center in Tulsa. We saw Bryant Reeves shooting some free throws there at the end of the ball game.
We'll talk about that. I want to point out that Collier, I went over to congratulate him. I think Collier from Tulsa is a very nice player, and we had done a good job on him. I went over and just wished him well. And, that's the way athletic contests ought to be. You ought to really go out there and fight it out, and somebody has to lose in a basketball game. When it's over, if someone on the other team has done well, or even if he's had a great career, well, I think that's a coach's responsibility to go over and visit with him a little bit. We want that series to be very competitive, but we want it to be very healthy, and it certainly has been that way thus far. But going back to Brian, his free throw shooting, sometimes that becomes a mental thing because Brian is really a good shooter, and I don't believe that maybe he's worked as hard in practice in early season as he should have. And so we went back and looked at some films, and one of the things we discovered, he was rushing his free throws. When you shoot free throws, you got to stop and think about it. The basket's 10 feet high, you're 15 feet away, you have 10 seconds to shoot it, nobody's covering you. So a college man, if he'll really work at it every day in practice and get his routine down and put himself under game conditions, he should be able to hit 75% of them. Well, we worked with him the day of the game and the day before and did show him the film. He went out there, and late he hit 4 free throws when the game was still on the line. So that was encouraging. and he's going to go to the line a lot, and he's got to get to a point where he hits a high percentage, and I think he will.
And he did take his time shooting those free throws the other night. It's reminiscent of a year or two ago. Well, we've got much more to come here on the Eddie Sutton Show, including a special look on our off-the-court feature. That's coming up next. You know, the Oklahoma State basketball team is a close-knit family, and that word family has taken on added meaning this year with the return of Sean Sutton to the coaching staff. Here's Tom Dorado with our off-the-court feature.
Sean Sutton considers himself to be a very lucky young man. In the space of just a few short years, he's seen 2 dreams come true.
Sean, this has to be the second half of that dream come true. First to play for your dad, now to be part of his coaching staff.
I never envisioned growing up ever getting a chance to coach beside him, so it's kind of a unique situation. I had a great experience as a player for him, and then when the situation came about when Bill Self and Tor Roberts and Tim Jankovich went to North Texas, the opportunity came about. And it was something that, like I said, never envisioned happening, but something that I'm very much enjoying and very much looking forward to in the future of doing.
Do you ever concern yourself with being Sean the coach now, being accepted by those who once knew you as Sean the player?
I don't think so. I think the guys that know me, that I played with, know my personality. They know that the one thing that I like more than anything is I like to win. And so when they're doing well, I'm going to be their biggest cheerleader. When things aren't going well, I think they know that I'm not going to be pleased because that's just my personality. I'm a competitor. And, you know, if I can give anything, I'd like to rub that off on some of our guys.
There are those who say, and those who have seen you in games, bench shots on television that say that Sean Sutton looks just as intense as he did when he was a player.
Well, it all goes back to winning again. I think the one thing that I've always tried to do in my life, whether it be basketball or bowling or golf or tennis, I want to win. And losing is something that I don't like to accept, and it's something I'm not going to accept. So when you see me on the sidelines, you know that I'm into the game and I want to win as much as a coach as I did as a player.
Can you now appreciate a little better the frustration level on that bench that you might have caused at one time when you were a player?
I'm sure I can, especially when I see Brooks Thompson throw a bad pass. You sit there and you say, I can't believe he'd make that pass. And you think back, so I used to do some of the same things. So frustration, you know, it comes in handy. I think that guys, you see guys do things, you don't understand why they do them, but at the same time, I look back at my career and I made a lot of those same mistakes.
You like all the recruiting and the travel?
I do. Recruiting has been fun. I've only done it for 1 year. I feel like I've taken advantage of a lot of things that I've learned from some very good coaches and very good recruiters that recruited me. I feel like Bill Frieder and Steve Fisher and Bobby Crimmins, who all recruited me out of high school or after I left Kentucky, are 3 of the best recruiters in the business. And so I've taken some of their philosophies and some of the things they do into my own thing. So it's been fun. I'm learning still about that. That's one of the things I've had to make some adjustment to, but it's been fun traveling around and watching high school basketball players play.
Well, I know I speak for our Oklahoma State fans. It's good to have you back again. I know your dad is very proud of the fact that you are back on his staff, and continued good luck and good success.
Thanks, TD. Oklahoma State's a special place to Sean Sutton and always will be.
Great feature by Tom. And, you know, Sean, when he said, I don't like to lose, I don't believe I've had anyone that hates to lose any more than he does. He's going to be a great coach. He's been a real asset to our program as a player and now as a coach. And there's a tremendous advantage in being a coach's son if you go into coaching. From the standpoint, he's been around a lot of good basketball players, the different places that I've coached. He's been around a lot of great coaches. When you look at guys like Gene Cady and Pat Foster and Bill Self and Tim Jankovich and a lot of other guys, Rob Evans. I mean, there are just so many guys that are really good coaches, so he's learned a lot from that standpoint. But it's been a lot of fun having Sean as a player. You know, I'm asked this often, well, what is it like to coach your son? Well, there's a lot more good times than maybe there are bad times, but we had a lot of fun here and coming back and rekindling this spirit that we have here at Oklahoma State, and he certainly was instrumental in that. And now he's back here as a coach, and it's kind of a unique situation. I don't know whether it's ever happened before where a father who is the head coach has a son who's an assistant and then another son who's playing. So we've had a lot of fun this year with Scott and Sean, and if he'll continue to work hard, I think Sean will be an outstanding coach one day.
Well, he certainly knows the game, and I know Tom Dorado and I were talking on one of the basketball broadcasts. I think it was the first game against Providence. We looked over at Sean over there as it was going into overtime. His hair was going crazy. His tie was off. He worked harder in that game, I think, than he did when he was a player, so he was really getting into that.
A lot of times people don't really think that what a coach goes through over that bench. It's pretty tough at times, especially I think you insulate yourself as you get older, but for someone like Sean who's not that far removed from the court, I think he and John Pelfrey, who's also one of our assistants, sometimes they don't realize when they were playing how tough it is on the coach, like when you throw the ball away out there. Well, they do now.
Well, it's fun to watch those guys, and of course Hawaii is coming up for the Oklahoma State Cowboys. We'll talk about that and much more when the Eddie Sutton Show continues. Welcome back to the Eddie Sutton Show. We have a lot of basketball still to talk about, but Coach, first of all, I want to ask you about your tie that you have on today.
Well, I get most of my clothes at Bates Brothers here in Stillwater, but this tie is a very special tie as far as I'm concerned. This is a tie that is made by the organization Save the Children, and a little boy 11 years old designed this tie. His name was Tim, and that's his idea of a giraffe. Now that's special, that little boy would design that, and then the tie maker, of course, makes the tie. But President Clinton gave that to me,
wow.
And so that makes it very special. Patsy and I had the opportunity back in October on an invitation from the White House to go up there and have dinner with President and the First Lady, and we had an opportunity to spend the night, which we did, and it was just a fantastic experience. And when we got ready to depart, President Clinton gave me this tie and then another one with a saxophone on it. So it was a fun time.
Well, that sounds like it must have been great. Let me ask you about recruiting. I know that's the lifeblood of every basketball program. I know you're happy with what's been going on so far for you.
I've always hired quality coaches, and I would never hire an assistant coach unless I thought one day he'd be a head coach. But you can't ever afford a guy that can just is good with the X's and O's. He's got to be a recruiter. He's got to go out and be able to sell your program. And I think Paul Graham and Sean and John Pelfrey, our three assistant coaches, did an outstanding job. We signed 3 players that most scouting services say are all in the top 50 high school players. Jason Scare is a 6'7" forward or swing type player from Deer Park down in the Houston area. DeJuan Baker's from Arlington Martin, 6'3" guard, jet quick, very good basketball player. And then we signed a big guy over just outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas, West Fork, Arkansas, John Nelson, who's 6'11", and is built a lot like our center, Bryant Reeves.
That's great.
But we're going to continue to recruit. We're still looking. It's an endless process. You get one class, then you're looking at the next, and you can only leave your campus in certain periods, and it's a dead period right now, so the only way we can recruit is by telephone or by letter. But in January, our coaches will be going back out to see some of the juniors in our state and in this part of the country. And also, if we could find the right person, we would sign another player in the spring.
You're right. That's a never-ending process. What about the Big 8? What do you think of what's happened so far? We were talking about the great Kansas-Indiana game of the other night. There have been a lot of great games. What do you think of the Big 8 so far?
Well, I think the Big 8's going to be, again, one of the top leagues in the country. I think everyone's starting to play better, maybe with the exception of a couple teams. Iowa State's the only undefeated team, but Kansas has just been super the way they've played. Great win this week over the University of Indiana. They've only lost one time, and that's at Temple, and Temple certainly is one of the top 5 teams in the country. But the Big 8's going to be tough. I think if you threw out our loss to LSU and Nebraska's loss at Appalachian State and maybe Southern Miss beating Kansas State and Manhattan, we'd have a remarkable record like we had the last couple of years. But when Big 8 play rolls around, there's going to be a lot of great basketball games played.
What about Hawaii? We have to mention the trip because that's what everybody's asking me about.
Well, I think all of us are looking forward to going to Hawaii. A lot of our players have never been there, and we're going over the idea that we're going to try to win the Rainbow Classic, and we have a tough assignment in our first game with the University of Florida, coached by Lonnie Kruger, an outstanding player at Kansas State, and was the head coach there before he went down to Gatorville. So that's going to be a tough game, and if we get by that one, probably we're going to get a rematch with the University of Louisville. So we're going over with one thing in mind, is to try to get our ball club where we're playing better and to win as many of those games as we can. But there's certainly going to have time for our players to enjoy themselves, and and be on the beach a while, and I'm looking forward to a little relaxation.
Well, I want to wish you and yours a happy holiday, and of course we'll see you over there.
I hope all of our fans have a happy holiday season.
And we're going to take about 2 weeks off from this show because of the holidays, and we will be in Hawaii, and hopefully it's good news for the Cowboys. So for Coach Sutton and Tom Dorado and all of us at Oklahoma State, I'm Bill Teegins. Happy holidays, everybody.